You're listening to the Fezcast, the Saracens fans podcast, bringing you the independent and unhinged views of the voices in our heads, as well as those of our special guests. To get in touch with us, find the Fezcast on social media and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube and more. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, hello everybody, welcome to the Fezcast and welcome to the show, the normal other two of the Three Musketeers, Matt and Duncan. We're back to discuss a pretty good weekend of rugby all told, really, wasn't it, guys?
We're nodding. That's what's called a closed question.
Yeah, for once, I think we're actually letting each other talk.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's unusual for let me go. No, that was quite a brief one for me. First things first, though, Duncan, I've got to say congratulations on a great show last week, in particular the Q&A with Akina and Louis at the SSA event. I think you did really well there. I'll let the dig at me go from the start of the show. But yeah, no, that went really, really well. And I mean, the quality wasn't perhaps what you wanted it to be, but we worked around that and we know for the future, don't we?
Yeah, you only let me now that you got a mixing board and a load of microphones at home. I wish I'd known beforehand. But yeah, you do live and learn, and it will definitely improve in the future. And it was a great evening, and a big thank you to Louis and Aquino, who I thought were brilliant guests.
Both of them spoke very, very well, as you expect from these guys. But they're both young people, and they did very, very well under your fierce Sir Robin Day style inquisitions, Duncan.
Well, the real interesting part was Louis letting slip that they definitely have been listening to us, haven't they? And trying different things in attack. And we'll come on to it later, despite a bit of a Keystone Cops first half, I personally think you can see it, but we'll talk about that later.
Absolutely. I know me and Matt had a bit of a to and fro on WhatsApp about that, didn't we, Matt? And our normal way of doing it is, Matt's the one you see. It's like Michael Palin in the Monty Python. Is it? I've come here for an argument.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a bit. But yeah, I think I was the same as Duncan, really. I think I was screaming at one point because it just seemed absolute chaos. But yeah, we'll talk about the change in the second half for sure.
Well, indeed. And I'll mention what my opening gambit to WhatsApp was when we do that. But first off, though, before we talk about beating the Tractor Boys from deepest, darkest Gloucestershire on Saturday, I watched on the telly either side of, so I watched the first half, then watched Saracens Gloucester, and then watched the second half afterwards. England versus Scotland in the Six Nations. And on the face of it, a very good performance from the team. I mean, they put however many points it was on, got to be a bit of a cricket score. Scotland stuck at it well, but were outclassed. But Saracens side, Kelsey Clifford, she doesn't score tries for God knows how many performances and then gets 2 in 2. So she's doing well. Marley Packer, after missing 2 games being dropped from the squad and everything, has been put back in the squad and was showed the intensity you expect from Marley Packer. Got her 50th international try, which is no great shakes at all. I mean, she's done superb over a long career to be as prolific as she was. Rosie Gallagher, another impressive showing, but I'm going to have my gripe, and Matt knows what's coming here now. I'm going to mention our good friends, Lady May Campbell. She's had 40 minutes tops in this Six Nations, and she's come on at times when games have been won, things have got a little bit harum scarum maybe. She hasn't necessarily been allowed to show her full gamut. I'm really wondering, one, what John Mitchell has learned, because I'm assuming he's not going to play her, well, she's going to be in the squad for the France game because he'll go with his experienced hookers. And what's it doing to May Campbell, mate? Has she had enough game time, do you think?
Certainly think we'd like her to have had a little bit more. I mean, we've talked a few times about the fact that she's coming in at a major disadvantage in that she's not a full-time rugby player as opposed to the other 2 hookers in that squad, and she's ousted Connie Powell, who I think has been full-time. So the fact that May's got into that Six Nations squad and has got the minutes she has is still massively commendable. But I would have maybe liked to have seen her certainly a bit more in the previous match, a bit more than nothing. It kind of, when I saw that she was on the bench, I thought, yeah, maybe this is actually the time she could have started. But it kind of made slightly more sense when she was brought on the 50-minute mark alongside the 2 bench props as well. It was a full front row change. So you kind of understood that a little bit more. She'd have got 20 minutes more if she'd have started, but did she come on alongside the two props that John Mitchell perhaps sees as all three of them being impact players at some point? Potentially. So I get it. But yeah, I think the opportunity to have at least started a match is one that's been missed. But John Mitchell's used, I think it's 34 players so far in 4 matches in this Six Nations. So overall, he's doing what we expected of him, trying to sort of almost put together a second 15 that would comfortably beat other teams in that Six Nations and some of the teams that we're going to play in the World Cup. So yes, in isolation, disappointed for May, but I can kind of see what's been going on. Just on Marley Packer as well, we probably would have liked her to have played a little bit more, but I think she'd admit herself she's in the latter stages of her rugby career. At club level, she's struggling to play every match week in, week out now, and I think utilising Marley Packer and getting 100% out of her in the games that we're getting out of her is going to be a much better way of contributing to the World Cup squad.
In some ways, it's a beautiful thing to have. Often they say, Duncan, it's a curse, isn't it, when you have too much options and too much quality? Who do you leave out? I mean, the fact that Poppy Cleals sat at home, she can't get in a huge amount of back row players. It's a wonderful headache to have, isn't it?
It is. I mean, there is just a wealth of talent in the English women's game. In terms of the competition, the Six Nations itself, too much. I think the other countries are coming up. Look at the progress of Ireland over the last year. It's been phenomenal. And we do need them to carry on. Perhaps we should lend them a few from England, you never know, to get a bit more interest in the competition. But a wealth of talent there.
Oh, you going on about lending players everywhere and everything. You'll get people having moans at you, Duncan, again. You know that. You're just doing it to wind up your mate, aren't you? I can tell that.
I am causing a lot of anger around the place. And that was a joke, I promise you.
I'm sure it was. But yeah, no. Are you interested to see, France next week at Twickenham, I refuse to call it whatever insurance company have got it at the moment. At HQ, it's going to be a big game. And if England go through that, continue their winning streak, they go into the World Cup as huge favourites, don't they, Matt?
Yeah, it's hard to see us as anything other than favourites playing at home, being number one in the world. It'll take another slip up, as we had in the last World Cup, to stop us, really. There's us, there's New Zealand, there's potentially Canada. I think France has gone backwards a little bit. Nothing less than a win in the World Cup is good enough, particularly as I will be there for the final and I would like to see us win the World Cup final.
Agreed, Matt. Absolutely agreed. Well, shall we have a stop there? And then we'll come back and we'll discuss the Gloucester game and the ongoing, what's happening in the rest of the season as well.
Hi, this is Petrus Duplessis and you are listening to the Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back to the Fezcast, our next part, and it's time to discuss the main action from Saracens' point of view. Saracens versus Gloucester in the Premiership, and a fantastic win for Saracens. But before we go into that, you two guys were at the game. I, as I've already said, was watching it on television. This was the game where we trialled the away fans section, which you see the people on social media and everything who haven't read past the headline and are saying this is the death of rugby and everything like that. And we could go on ad infinitum about why it's not. The main point is it's a trial. If it works and it adds to the value of the game and it creates something that a game can build on, and we know that game needs building and needs radical ideas, and we'll perhaps discuss that a bit further on in the show. But did it work? I mean, from the television, it sounded like the Gloucester fans who were all together. I mean, Gloucester fans always make a lot of noise wherever they go. I mean, they're a gobby bunch at the best of times. But it seemed to be that they really added to the atmosphere in the ground. I think it inspired our crowd to get more and more vocal. And I think it looked like they were having a great time with all the, well, I say fancy dress. I'm not sure whether some of the fancy dress is what people from Gloucester actually normally wear. But I mean, guys, you were there. What was it like, Duncan?
Well, in the East Stand, you could periodically hear the chants coming across. So it's hard to know what effect it had, especially at the North Stand, which is even further away than I was from them. Were they hearing it? But in terms of the atmosphere, it was one of the liveliest crowd performances of a Saracens crowd at StoneX for a long, long time. And was that a coincidence? Or was it a little bit of getting G'd up because they knew it was happening? But it certainly was a great atmosphere in the ground. Though on social media, there were a few people complaining because bad language, football type chants, etc. You get it every game with Gloucester fans anyway, bad language. So I don't think it was necessarily caused by the congregation, shall we call it. Overall, I think it probably did have a good effect.
Going back years and years and years, I remember my mum and dad saying once after going to Gloucester to watch a Gloucester, they'd never do it again because of the abuse that they got coming out. Gloucester, you don't forget, and I'm sure Matt will back me up on this one, is a rugby town, and it doesn't have a football club as an outlet for its more Nathaniel characters, shall we say. So, Gloucester rugby is very much the thing, and, they're perhaps not quite as refined as the people from Bath who also don't have a football club, but, other places you go, Leicester has a football club, so perhaps the football chant types go to the football as opposed to the rugby. I mean, it's very difficult to say this without stereotyping people, but I mean, Gloucester are just one step above a Forester, aren't they?
Who are we trying to annoy this week? No, I mean, my seat's in the south stand, so I was relatively close to the block that they'd put together, and I thought for the most part it added to the game. Probably stereotyping a little, but you could kind of see that most of the noise from within that block was coming from a group of maybe 15 that I would guess are potentially a bunch from Hartpury College or from nearby university, and maybe not your typical shed head Gloucester fan, more your younger demographic of rugby. And so, yes, the football type chants were more coming from that lot. I think the pearl clutching that's been going on about it being too football-like and the bad language.
Blue button's coming. I was going to say, because you've not seen me at a game recently, because right, rugby, particularly often referee-inspired Tourette's has come out. So, it's we're all grown-ups, aren't we, at the end of the day?
Yeah, look, and I'd rather that. I mean, this is quite harsh and quite sad, really, but in the South Stand this week, I was actually surrounded by a group of probably 50 young lads, early teens at best, and their coaches from Rugby Michelin in Belgium.
Oh, I played there. Oh, I could tell you a story about that.
Oh, God. What was it? About 50 of them. And they weren't particularly vocal. They were just bloody annoying. And one of them just kept kicking the back of my chair. And it was just, that was a pain in the arse. I'd much rather that group of Gloucester fans. To be honest, second half, we went and stood on the other side because we just assumed that we were going to win and score a load of tries on the other side of the pitch. So we wandered off and stood at the side of the pitch by the South Stand. But yeah, I had no issues.
Well, I've actually scored a try for Rugby Club Michelin. There you go. On a tour with Abingdon. We turned up for a game.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
You're listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracens Supporters Association. And I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This
I'm
is
going to buy
the
the team beer for the rest of the
Fezcast.
night because I scored a try against Abingdon on tour. But there you go. That's completely off on a tangent, but I thought I'd just say that.
So there's a minute I'm never getting back.
Like everything else, Duncan, it's a trial. If it works, all well and good. They'll tweak it here, they'll tweak it there. But if it adds to the game, why not?
Have you ever read the book by Spike Milligan, Adolf Hitler, My Part in His Downfall?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the
It sounds like your rugby career sounds a bit like that.
yeah. Wade Dooley, My Part in His Downfall.
I think it's going to disappear as a story. TNT and everybody in the Guardian wanted to be there for this historic day. We've said before it's a bit of a nothing because clubs and certainly the SSA have been doing this for years. both of the coaches who were sitting right near it thought it was brilliant, including Mark McCall. So I think it'll carry on as it should, and it'll disappear as a story.
As I said to somebody else online, I mean, it's very much more a case of, as you point out, there are a couple of clubs out there, particularly like Quins, who go out their way not to facilitate that. Although the way that Quins are playing at the moment, I'm sure they'll probably have empty seats, so they'll be happy to sell to anybody at the moment. But that's a different story, isn't it? Let's get on to the game, though. First things first, we had one 3-word review this week that Barry sent through, but it wins it, really. Mark Todd, thank you very much for that. Back on track, and very much, back on track. First half, my opening gambit on WhatsApp was defence optional. And I think defence was optional from both sides. But I think, Matt, you were at the game and you could see from behind, from where you were sitting, massive, great Red Sea opening for Moses type gaps. I think there's two things to remember, first of all, before we get into your answer to it. One, this is the first game back for a lot of the England players. So Maratoji, Tom Willis, Ben Earl, Jamie George, Elliot Daly hadn't played since we played Leicester Tigers, which was 3 weeks ago now, because they didn't play against Toulon.
They all played the showdown.
Yeah, no, but that was before Leicester Tigers. So the last game they played was the Leicester Tigers game, because they didn't play against Toulon, because that was Europeans, and then we had a week off. Match sharpness is not going to be there as much as if they'd played last week in Europe and they'd played those players in Europe. So it took a little while for them to get back into it. And second of all, the one thing that we were talking about is that we want them to play a more attacking game of rugby. And we know, because we've been discussing this and what Louis said and everything like that, they've been trying some more attacking things. Something gives when you do that. And I think what happened second half was they turned around and went, we're doing perhaps a bit too much this new stuff. Let's just drag it back a little bit. But, you want them to try new stuff and something else is going to slip off somewhere else. And in this case, it happened to be defence. Bearing in mind as well, Ollie Hartley and Nick Tompkins, that's only their second game that they've played together, I think, as a centre partnership in quite some time. So where you look at a centre partnership, maybe there's a little bit of communication issues going on there. I don't know, but I think we can cut them a little bit more slack than perhaps you were prepared to on Saturday.
No. I'm not buying it that 4 or 5 players having one extra week off than they were expecting has made a difference.
2 extra weeks.
One extra week off than they were expecting.
Right.
And to be honest, the players that did miss those games as England players weren't the ones that were really at fault in that first half. I mean, you look at Gloucester's first try that they scored, which was from a scrum. They were all involved in that. It's not their fault. For that, it was the fact that Van Zyl, Burke, Hartley and Tompkins were occupying the same 3 metres of space on the pitch. So they were just able to run round them completely. And poor old Elliot Daly looked absolutely stupid because he's standing at fullback and he's got 3 players to choose from to tackle. And in the end, he just stands still and tackles none of them because there's absolutely no point. The issue really in the first half was that we were trying to play Gloucester at their own game. Coupled with this, now this is an issue that we spotted in the Prem Cup games. There was a bit of a gap either between 12 and 13 or outside of 13 because they were too close together. And Hartley and Spink had that issue all through the Prem Cup campaign, and it seemed to be happening in the first half between Hartley and Tompkins as well. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's therefore Ollie Hartley's the common denominator. I just think possibly, like you say, it's a pairing that hasn't really played very much together at all and weren't quite in sync. So hopefully that does sort itself out, as it did in the second half.
I mean, you've also got to bear in mind as well that Nick Tompkins has been spending most of the season, Duncan, playing at 12 and has only reverted to 13 in recent weeks, more so for Wales than he has done for Saracens. And actually 12 and 13 are vastly different positions. I mean, you would think they're in the centre of the field. They are vastly different, aren't they?
They are. It was interesting seeing Matt's comments at half-time, and because from the side, you couldn't really see it. It's one of the advantages of being behind the goal, isn't it? That you can see those sort of patterns going wrong better than you can from the side. And yes, it's a pairing that hasn't played together much. I hope that it carries on, to be honest with you, because I know I've been accused of being the Ollie Hartley chairman of his fan club before, but he brings something different to the attack. He really does. And he makes the opposition think, because normally they might be thinking, we're going to be passing it behind or passing it over the top of someone or whatever. And then you get him coming through like the battering ram. So I hope it carries on and that coordination improves.
As I said, though, it was an issue that completely disappeared second half. So
the interesting thing is that often when you see players who are very good at attack, that's instinct. He's doing things he's a new player on the block. So the Premiership coaches will know of him, obviously, but they won't know the full story. And it's very much the same as when you look at Marcus Smith, for argument's sake, as a player 4 years ago. He came burst on the scene and nobody knew what to do with him because he was just doing amazing stuff. 4 years down the line, people have kind of worked him out a bit and know what he's going to do. And he hasn't quite developed that side of the game. So Ollie Hartley can do things in attack. One, because he's a huge bull of a man, number one. But for a big guy, he's also got a lovely step. And I do see an awful lot of Will Greenwood in him, which is very high compliments to play indeed. He can, for a big man, he floats through games. But that's instinct. Attack is something that you have almost instinctively in you. Defence is something you learn. Defence is something you learn more than is instinctive. So as he develops as a player, and he's a big guy, and, when he does, there was one hit he made in the game where I think the lad he hit, was it Atkinson, the centre? He hit him, and I think he's probably still trying to find his ribs now. I mean, they're somewhere down Mill Hill High Street, I think. It was a proper lung buster, that one was. So he's got it in him. It's more about how you work in a defensive system as opposed to hitting the one-up tackles. Anybody should be able to hit up one-up tackles, but working in a defensive system. And as you say, the communication obviously works because second half, that door was closed, wasn't it?
Well, that's it. And I totally agree with you. You look at him, he's a physical specimen. You can't coach that. He is a massive, massive future for us in that 12 shirt. So definitely stick with it. And yeah, second half, well, we shut them out. 0 points second half. Can't really say fairer than that. After the first half, which we were just, I was just screaming into my hands sometimes watching it. So
it was funny going down at half time to have a word with everybody around, and everybody was going, "What the hell was that?" I mean, it was unbelievably entertaining, but God blimey. But I'll tell you what, a couple of points I would say. If the game had finished at half-time, Roti Shigan would have been man of the match. Oh, He was outstanding in that first half, both in attack and defence.
Oh, yeah.
And the other person, and this is really encouraging, who was really good in defence, was Tobias Elliott.
Yes, he made more tackles than anybody else, I think. And I mean, surprisingly, he didn't get into the fantasy team of the week. But then again, Marcus Smith got into the fantasy team of the week. So I don't know how the fantasy points work out because, I mean, there's stats and damn lies, I think. But there you go. I mean, I will mention Nick Tompkins. I mean, Nick Tompkins' highlights reel does include a couple of bloopers in it. But him and Roti Shigan, I mean, they suddenly got the greased up in butter, I think, didn't they, for both their tries because nobody could lay a finger on them. And I mean, it was quite amazing to see. Rotti's was more to do with just some pace and some power, whereas Nick's was like Gloucester just suddenly looked like they got Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder playing in the centres because they didn't know where he was.
Both his try and JMG's try, they both started off with a bit of utter brilliance. But then, I mean, JMG's, he didn't so much as do a sidestep, a step aside to let the Gloucester player go roaring by him.
It was like a proper bullfire, wasn't it? Well, hey, he gave it, wasn't it? But yeah, and we'll talk about that try a little bit later on. What I do want to say, though, is pull out some players who I felt really did perform brilliantly. We've already mentioned Ollie Hartley. We've already mentioned Rotimi Shigan, but the man of the match on the day, and mainly because he dismantled the Gloucester line-out, which is normally a pretty effective weapon for Gloucester. Nick Ezekwe was immense at line-out time. And when you've got him and Hugh Tizard and Theo McFarland in that second row, back row, giving line-out options. And JMG, when he came on as well, takes an awful lot of pressure off of Maro Itoje, which allows Maro to play his normal game. And Maro did his normal one of coming straight through the middle of them all, again, a turnover towards the end of the game, didn't he? Which I don't know how he does it, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, he's a big 6'8", very recognisable guy. Why can't you stop him coming through the middle? Why can't you see him coming? But he does it every time. But yeah, no, Nick Ezekwe, and it's important because everybody will be talking about British Lions, but the important thing is that I think Steve Borthwick was there on the weekend, and he's going to be looking at players who aren't going British Lions, who are going to go to Argentina, and Nick Ezekwe's name's penciled in straight away, isn't it?
Would have thought so. He is someone that goes about his game in a fairly understated way. And it'd be very easy to compare him to George Cruz's, Maro Itoje's partner in the second row. But that's basically how he played at the weekend. Like you say, he disrupted the Gloucester line out pretty much every single time. It was a real strength for us in that game. And yeah, that's probably one of his games of the season for Nick. And as someone who's had a few injury issues over the last couple of years, it's good to see him making the team sheet as regularly as he has been this season.
Seeing the first line out and you're seeing Theo, Maro and Nick Ezekwesili standing, rubbing your hands. And then they didn't compete for it. So but luckily, after a second, third line out, you wouldn't want to be a hooker thrown in against those three, would you?
No, not at all. I mean, that is remarkable. And Nick did also pull out the one-handed take as well, a la Theo McFarland, which, Theo had another one of those really good, consistent games as well that I know you, Matt, I've been wanting to see from him.
Yep, absolutely. No, it is the Theo that I always had an issue with for maybe a year, maybe 18 months is, massive thing of the past now. He was that solid 7, 8 out of 10 on a day again, so...
Threw a couple of digs in as well, which was nice to see. He acted a bit as of an enforcer, Duncan.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was going to say the other Theo looks like a raging bull these days, doesn't he? A little sort of half-size raging bull. He just goes through defences like there's no tomorrow.
Oh, Theo does, yeah. And I mean, and a hooker's hat trick as well, which was Jamie George finishing off that try. Another one of those ones with, how on earth did they allow me to do that try? But yeah, but the one person I really do want to mention, and I think he's a bit of a unsung, I'd say hero. That's the unsung hero of the game. That came on 25 minutes gone, if that. It looks like we've got a problem at tight head, but Alec Clary came on. And against a very vaunted pair of props in Ruskin and Ford Robinson, took them apart. Absolutely rips the loose head side of Gloucester's scrummage apart and showed up in the loose, made plenty of runs, plenty of carries, and made his tackles. Alec Clary, the zombie killer par excellence, as we know him, he was proper good, wasn't he, Matt?
He was, yeah. I mean, he is someone as well that you always want him to have a good game because he's just such a likeable bloke. He's the sort of person that you want around the squad. He's not going to be within your squad. He's not going to be your number one tight head if you're a Premiership winning side. But as a bench player, as a third man in the squad, you want him around. He's probably fantastic to have around the training pitch. And yeah, he's always solid. He's never had a spectacular game. He's just not that kind of player, but I don't think he's ever had a bad game either.
Well, yeah, and Duncan, I just want to bring you in there. I mean, the important thing there is we signed him when we went down to the Championship, and all credit to him, he stayed at the club. So obviously he's getting the deals, he's getting the contracts. They think a lot of him, and yeah, as Matt says, it's not just what you do on the pitch. It's what you do off the pitch. And when I was at training, he was a very vocal person in so much as even just having a laugh and a joke, he's putting that kind of like something different. It's not all serious. It's enjoyment and influence over the whole of the work day.
Well, Saracens have always found that important, haven't they? And there's been a lot of talk that before signing anybody, they'll do a lot of work to find out about their character and what they're like in the change room, etc. But when he came on at minute 23, I was thinking, oh, blimey, we're going to have a problem when we get to the 70th minute. He will have been on a long time and will have taken a battering. But the best compliment I can give him is that the last 10 minutes of the game, he was as good as the first 10 minutes that he played.
Yeah, he was. He was outstanding. The other prop that came on, Reece Carey, there was one fantastic turnover. I mean, they'll talk about the feet on the hands on the ground and everything. I think he's belly at the ground before anything else. But he got there. He got amazing. I mean, you saw on the television, and I mean, was he stand 6'4"? I think he was about 8 foot over. He's got his hands on the ball, and what an amazing turnover. And he just looks like he enjoys his rugby, doesn't he? And I think that's half the battle, isn't it, Matt?
It is, yeah. I mean, my dad turned around to me. Reece Carey walked past us just before the start of the game, and the sun disappeared. I don't know whether it was a coincidence, but it was exactly that moment. But he did turn around to me and say, he looks like the honey monster from the Sugar Puff adverts, didn't he? So actually, that's about right. But he's fantastic. I think Sam mentioned this on the show a few weeks back. Rhys Carey's first stint at Saracens, I don't know that we were that disappointed to lose him.
No,
to be honest, he didn't perform particularly well, but he's gone away. He's played for Cardiff. He's been Gatlanded, and he's come back to us bigger, stronger somehow, and a much better all round player. And yeah, he's been fantastic this season. He's had another one that's had a couple of injuries, a couple of little niggles, as you do in the front row. But I think we're still yet to see Rhys Carey in full flow, and that's quite frightening, really.
And the man he replaced was really good as well, wasn't he?
Roddy Murray had a really good game, yeah. Again, against a much vaunted, as I say, Gloucester front row, we didn't take a backward step all game. Now, the one controversial moment, and we've already mentioned it earlier on, Juan Martin Gonzalez's try. I think Nick Mullins summed it up in commentary by saying, that's got to be illegal. Surely that's illegal. If you slow it down, and I may be clutching the straws here a little bit, but I mean, all of Gloucester will turn around and say they never saw it. I will point out to Gloucester it's because you're not good enough to have seen it. There was the tiniest bounce. And the tiniest. It was done so quickly. And let's be honest about it. 9 times out of 10, if it'd been pinged for, it would have gone, oh, well, it's one of those. But you watch what he did there. I mean, he deserved a try just for the sheer chaputs of even trying it. And Santiago Carreras will be having nightmares about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And when they go back to Argentina, I'm sure Juan Martin Gonzalez will be taking the mickey out of him mercilessly. In fact, I'd make them share a room just for the hell of it. But I mean, it was outstanding, wasn't it? But it came from pressure. And I think what Saracens' attack was great at doing was putting pressure on. It came a lot from Fergus Burke, who kicks at the right times, and Elliot Daly as well. And the kicks we made, and even Ivan Van Zyl in the second half, his kicking got an awful lot better because it was done a lot quicker than it was first half, allowed us to rush up and put defensive pressure on in attack and made Gloucester make mistakes, and they made an awful lot of mistakes. But again, as we've spoken, I've been, this is a drum we've been banging over the last few weeks, England, whatever. Teams make mistakes because they are put under pressure, and we put Gloucester under pressure. And JMG's miracle try was just the complete and utter example of that working superbly well, Duncan.
The thing about him is he's deceptively quick, isn't he? I mean, it was a brilliant steal, but then he does go at a fair rate. I mean, that try-saving tackle at the semi-final at Northampton shows it, when he caught up with a player from way off beyond the horizon. And that's the thing that he's got. He's got that ability to steal the ball and then go hell for leather with it and stop at the right time to let Carreras go careering past him.
Yeah. I mean, he is a weird shape, isn't he? Because if you look at him, he's got a very long body, but actually deceptively short legs for a bloke of his height, or whether that's me just looking at it weirdly, I don't know. But I mean, he's got an awful lot of power and he just... But it's deceptive. I just don't know where it comes from. But it was just outstanding to see. I don't care if that was illegal, Matt. I was so clever and so well done that it has to be, even if it was illegal, they should turn around and say, sorry, we'll give you 5 points anyway.
I mean, I'm going to say, if that was scored against us, that would be, the referee would be given the full Jez treatment. I think that was illegal in about 3 different ways. I think he was still on his knees when he wrestled the ball away from him. So it was, yeah. But would it have changed the result? Absolutely not. So let's move on. It was, the run-in was hilarious, to be honest. And again, James is another player that his first season with us, it was just a walk in highlights reel. This season, he's another one that's just going about his business. Solid player within the team, always consistently good. And yet we are still getting that bit of magic out of him as well. Fantastic signing for us. I'm actually surprised we've still got him, to be honest. So, yeah, brilliant. But yeah, there's no way that was legal. I'm sorry.
As a former back row myself, I would be proud of that one. And I mean, fair do. I mean, I go back to playing in the days when you could scrabble around on the floor to your heart's content. So, I mean, I think, just brilliantly done and fantastic. And it was, as you say, a complete and utter highlight, and made by Nick Mullins, friend of the show's commentary, which was absolutely brilliant. Surely that's illegal. It can't be right. Just quickly, just want to mention as well, though, Fergus Burke. I think Fergus had another really solid game. We wanted him to play on the front foot. He did. We know he's not going to be the all-court kicking controller in that way, but he's developing that side of his game. And when we needed to put kicks in to allow our defence to pressurise in attack, he did everything was wanted of him, and he was pretty good off of the tee, other than the first one, which was a bit of an aberration. But, the ones that he should have got, he did get. The ones he didn't get, he weren't far off.
It's interesting how long it seems to take for a new number 10 to gel with the team, isn't it? And I think we're starting to see that now. People are knowing what he's going to do, and some of his runs are great, really effective. And you can see those arcing runs, and then he'll put someone in, and he seems to be fitting in now, doesn't he?
I think the thing there is as well, and I don't know if you agree with me, Matt, is that the club clearly rate him and are giving him the opportunities and saying, look, this is a development season for you. We know you're not going to be the finished article, but we want you to learn. If you'd have thought 2 seasons ago, when Manu Vunipola was stepping in, you had to have Alex Good on the pitch to play 10 on first receiver because they couldn't trust Manu Vunipola. If Manu was going to make a mistake, he was going to make a big mistake and it would cost you big start. Whereas Fergus, he might make the odd mistake, but what he gives you more outweighs those mistakes.
Yeah.
And you don't need Alex Good sat next to him making decisions. It does help if you've got an Elliot Daly or Alex Good on the pitch, of course. But, he's perhaps looked his best when he's had an inexperienced inside centre playing alongside him.
Yeah, possibly. We've been saying it all season, haven't we? Even when he's not looked fantastic in a particular game, we keep saying that the signs are all there that he's going to be a good player for us, a different player to Owen Farrell. There we go, my turn.
Do you know how well I resisted the temptation to throw that in there, and then you ruined it all, Matt?
Yeah, but I mean, it looks very simple, really, but the timing of his run and then pass for Nick Tompkins for his try is something that we'd be gushing over if it was Owen. So that's part of it. But yeah, Fergus Burke is starting to click, I think. And I think it says a lot as well that obviously Alex has obviously took kicking duties on early in the season and has now been injured. And I think Burke's first game back with the kicking tee, he was 100% off of it. And this week, he missed 2, one of which was from the touchline, and another one was a bit irritating, really, because I think an injured player crossed in front of him about 5 seconds before he was about to take the kick, which isn't an excuse, but it is part of it. So it's really good to see Fergus just starting to click it.
And the one kick he did get where the referee decided with 4 seconds left on the shot clock he was going to get his microphone fixed. I mean, that was ridiculous, quite honestly. I mean, why you couldn't have waited until the restart, I do not know. But yeah, it was Chris Harris trying back, and Chris Harris knew what Chris Harris was doing there and trying back and doing whatever. I mean, the interesting thing is, Duncan, that what Fergus is very good at doing now, and I mean, I'll go back again to my playing days, and I mentioned I used to play with a guy called Andy Griffiths. I played at Northampton for a while. We come out of Abingdon, and I remember once in the first half, once in the second half, and then trust your processes to keep yourself in the game. And that's what Fergus has got. He's got the ability, if he wanted to try the spectacular every time he gets the ball. But he's learned to almost ration that and say, right, we'll do it at the right time and we'll score something from it. Nick Tompkins try, prime example. And then we'll do it again in the second half, maybe, and we'll get another try from it or whatever. And that's brilliant. And that's where the really good standoffs know how to do it, that you don't have to have an addition to your highlight reel every time you get the ball in your hands, which other perhaps more lauded standoffs are trying to do at the moment.
I think you're trying to turn this into the Abingdon cast, aren't you?
But the issue stands. I mean, it is correct. If you do something too often, people get used to it and they know what you're going to do, and it's easy to defend. Do it as a surprise. It's the old Billy Vanapola thing where Billy Vanapola used to take a crash, and then suddenly there'll be a pop out the back or an offload in the tackle, and everybody's going, where the hell did that come from? That's what Fergus has got in his game, I think.
I think he's got all the parts, hasn't he? As you said earlier, I think we will see him just get better and better now.
Indeed. Well, I think it looks good. And I mean, a lot of people have been saying it. Is this a Saracens team peaking at the right time? It's what we tend to do, which means that we do have to look forward now to the rest of the season. We've got 4 games left. And we've got the Enya game, sail away. You know, my normal joke coming in there. It's a big, big game. Never nice going up to Manchester or, Salford on a Friday night. It'll probably lash down because it normally does there on a Friday night. I mean, it's a Lowry version of the Greater Manchester areas, then with the rain coming down. Sale have just been and got a great win on the road. They're with confidence. You're talking about a standoff in form. George Ford is banging form at the moment and really playing some very good rugby and taking Sale around the park and putting them in the right places. You look at the games coming up, and I've done some quick maths and everything. We're going to need to be in a chance of top 4. We're going to need at least 2 points on the weekend. Can we get 2 points, i.e. a 4 tries and a losing bonus point, or can we do better? I mean, let's be honest about it. Nobody gave us a chance going to Leicester Tigers, who again have gone away and got a great win on the road. So, you know, it's a topsy-turvy season outside of the bottom 3. Or bottom 4 now with Quins down in that bottom 4. The top 6 teams are taking points off of each other pretty much all the time. And even, you know, Bath was struggling a bit against Exeter. What do you think, guys? Can we go up to Sale and get a win, Matt?
Definitely. Yeah, like you said, I think we're seeing this season that everyone can beat everyone. And it says a lot that we've been absolutely pillaring our team at times for being totally inconsistent and downright rubbish in some matches. And we're still within 2 points of being second and having a home semi-final. It is very, very close. And to be honest, I'm completely ignoring your question, but I'm going to stand by what I've said over the last few weeks. I would rather we finish 6th and so show a sign that next season we're going to have evolved and we're going to be playing good rugby than maul our way to 4th. So can we beat Sale? Yes, we definitely can. And actually, I have answered your question. I think the way we beat Sale, unfortunately, is by being bloody boring about it. So, I don't know. It's a bit contradictory, I think, in my head. So, we'll just have to see. It's unpredictable, the rest of this season, for sure.
It really is, isn't it? I mean, I tried to predict it, and you look at it and you think, you know, Bath have got Falcons, so that's 5 points to them. They've got Bristol away. Well, you never know there. I mean, Bristol could come out and be brilliant or could come out and be abject. They got Leicester at home, 5 points, so they're good, you know. And then they got us away, by which time they'll have qualified in top place anyway, so they may well be resting players. Who knows? Leicester have got Quins at home, so that's a banker for them. They've got Sale at home, should be a banker, but then again, us at their place should have been a banker for them, and it wasn't. They got Bath away, probably Bath's last game. We're going full tilt at it. And they got Falcons at home. Bristol got Saints away, Bath home, Sale away, Quins at home, Saracens home, Leicester away, Bath home, Chiefs away. And we've got Sale, Falcons, Saints and Bath. I mean, it's going to come down to points scored, I think, at the end of the day. The way I look at it, it'll be Bath 75, Leicester 62, Sale and Saracens on 61 and Bristol on 60. But, I mean, that's back of the, well, as I said, fact paper, but it's quiz papers, calculations, and could go completely and utterly to pot. I mean, again, Duncan, I mean, do you reiterate what Matt says? I mean, basically, you know, if we do get second, it wouldn't be a surprise. If we come 6th, it wouldn't be a surprise. But as long as we see the team playing like they have been playing and progressing in the way that we want to see them progress.
Well, first off, don't rule out Gloucester because they've got the easiest run-in of everybody. But this Friday is going to tell us a lot. Going away to Sale on a Friday night, we need to win it because I'm hoping we get that home semi-final. And also, if we win it, it is a sign that we've still got that Saracens quality that Ed from Cherry Jam was saying he's expecting us to show, which is when it gets to the business end of the season, we've got the experienced players who know what it takes. You know, one of the things that Louis Johnson said last week was there have been times this season when our mentality let us down. We were both not working in attack and we didn't have the mentality to get up there. You've got to hope that now that we're getting to the business end of the season, we're going to have both the mentality and the progress will continue that I believe we've been seeing in attack.
Completely agree. Well, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? One thing's for certain, I think it's fair to say that this tail end of the season is going to be one of the most exciting seasons that we've seen in a long time. There's not 4 teams ahead. As you say, there are 6 teams. I think Quins are out of it now. There are 6 teams that are playing for 5 places. We know Bath have got this sewn up, but 3 places between 5 teams is going to be really exciting. And you're right, Matt. I think points will be taken off of everybody through the season. And I think, unlike other seasons, unless you are Bath, everybody's going to have to go full tilt until the last game of the season. Now, that's going to play out. The interesting thing, though, Duncan, and this is where I'm just going to wind you up now and let you go. The big news has come out this week that they're looking at the way that Premiership rugby is set up. And I think the first thing to say is that Bill Sweeney's got his mitts all over this. And actually, probably Bill Sweeney, now he's got through his vote of no confidence and everything, and he knows that a lot of clubs don't like him, particularly lower down the leagues. He really doesn't give 2 anymore, does he? So he might be the right person to take this on. But there's some radical things being talked about, which is the right thing to do, isn't it, Duncan? The game needs some radical thinking to make sure that it succeeds and survives in this current climate.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 big changes that they're talking about. The first is going back to 14 teams. And again, after Saturday's game, when we were all having a pint, and it came up on the board, next home game, May the 10th. You know, after having had a really thrilling afternoon, really enjoying it, looking forward to the next one, and it's practically a month away, I think shows that while what you said is absolutely true, a lot of the exciting finish to the season is coming from the fact that it's a 10-team league. It's not really working, is it? This sort of 4.5-year layoff in the middle of the season doesn't really work. And even now, have to wait an eon till the next game. So that's good. The big one is something I've been banging on for a long time. It is that it's never going to work for the clubs to run the league.
No.
And they're talking about bringing in what has worked very well in the NFL and the NRL, which is having independent commissioners run the league for the benefit of the league, not everybody's own little issue wherever they are. And that's a big change. Where I have a lot of sympathy is that a lot of people are saying a 14-team league with no relegation, you're gonna have dead rubbers, and I think that is a danger, which is why I've always advocated either an A and B system or a pool system or whatever, and I hope it will evolve into that. Can I just say to everyone out there, I do understand if you feel that it's morally the only correct way for someone to start right down at the bottom in bloody Abingdon or somewhere and make your way up through umpteen levels and fight your way up. You know, if you feel that is the only morally correct way, I do understand that. I just don't think it's any way to organise a sport in financial jeopardy, which is what it is.
The example would be as well is that would any other sport do it? I mean, if for argument's sake, you know, in the county championship in cricket, if Essex got into financial trouble, and they have been in financial trouble in the past, other counties actually got round. I think it was either Worcestershire or Warwickshire saved Essex in the 1960s with an interest-free loan because they saw the benefit of having that county playing. It's exactly the same as what's happening in rugby. It just so happens that the lowest point for the professional game is a lot higher up the tree than it is perhaps in other sports. And, you know, that's not the fault of Worcester Warriors, for argument's sake, who we'd already discussed. That's the nature of it. And I think, as you say, Duncan, you know, an independent commissioner should come in. And yes, there may be the danger of some dead rubbers in the games or anything like that. But I think what it'll also do, it will free up the RFU to look after the grassroots of the game, provided the professional game is putting some money to the RFU off of the back of whatever they do, because without the grassroots game, the game will not survive, because where do you get those players from, argument's sake? But the RFU has said, right, go and administer England's national side and the amateur game and forget about the professional game. And the professional game grows, and maybe you start from a smaller base and grow it out. Surely something's got to happen in that way. And I think going this route of splitting the professional and the amateur game a bit more may be the way of doing it.
Well, all I would say is, I've said it before, all around the world in football, you tend to have this system of promotion and relegation, although I believe it's breaking down in this country. You've got the 3 teams that come up to the Premier League seem to be always being relegated. And similarly, you look at the top of the Championship, it's not really working there. But anyway, around the world in football, you get promotion and relegation. You get it in French rugby union, because, and I've talked about the special situations that exist in France, there isn't any other elite sport in the world that has promotion relegation because it is so financially damaging and sports can't survive it. And I think, rugby can't survive the sort of Ealing coming up, damaging the supporter base for Quins and Saracens, and that being the way that you decide it. No sport around the world, apart from football, organises itself that way. And we just got to move forward with it and try something different.
Matt, where do you stand on all of this?
On the throat.
He's big and tough when he's the other side of the camera, isn't he?
No, and there's an awful lot to unpack in there for me. And to be honest, there's quite a lot of it where I will openly admit is well beyond my capabilities. I have many strengths and business is not one of them. What I probably do want to say is Duncan obviously mentioned about the likes of Worcester and Wasps and London Irish all starting at the bottom of the pyramid. And until a few weeks ago, I was 100% one of those people. You go bust owing loads of money and fade out of existence. It is absolutely not right that you start in the second tier. However, Worcester being let into that second tier, having paid all of their debts, and the other 2 not, seems a lot more logical to me. So, revise my own opinion there. So I do get it. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and talk about how the RFU and the Premiership should be run because I don't know.
I think that, the other thing that's talked about, if the Telegraph article is right, is that clubs will be chosen a bit like in rugby league, although I wouldn't say follow that exactly, on what they bring to the game. So, let's take Ealing as the case example. Does Ealing bring an increased supporter footprint for the game? Does it bring an increase to the television rights by a new audience? Does it bring a new player pathway for young players? Does it bring a community outreach in an area that's not already there? Does it bring the availability of Premiership rugby to a geographical bunch of supporters who don't have access to it already? And the answer to all of that is no, it doesn't. Coventry have just announced today that they're increasing their capacity to 8,000 because they've had so many sellouts. That is the kind of club that you need, that is going to bring an extra audience to the game, or probably re-bring it. That is the kind of club that you need in this expanded league. Doncaster, it's crazy, as I said before, that there's no availability for the people in Yorkshire to go and see Premiership rugby. And here's where I risk getting controversial again. The way that they could expand this league and at a stroke significantly increase the TV rights is to bring in the Welsh clubs.
I'd also add the Scottish clubs into that as well, potentially. In particular, Glasgow, Edinburgh, both footballing towns, but they support rugby as well in a level that is needed to be done. So if you added Swansea, you added Cardiff, you added Glasgow, you added Edinburgh, there's your 14 teams.
I wasn't going to go as far as saying that, although I actually think it. I think you're absolutely right.
As you say, Matt, it's for far greater minds than you, me or Duncan, although I think if they did want us to be on some sort of like sounding board or a working party, we'd all jump at the chance for 50 grand a year. We'd throw our tuppence in, wouldn't we, Duncan?
Oh, I would.
Duncan believing there's more people in Coventry than there are in West London, but, we'll gloss over that one.
I absolutely do have an answer to that, but we don't have the time for it.
Yeah. Anyway, look, out of fear of boring our listeners to death, we'll look forward to the Sale game on Friday night, and we'll be back next week to discuss that and whatever else comes up. over the weekend, whatever good things or controversies or Juan Martin Gonzalez's illegal rucking technique or whatever it may be. But thank you, Matt. Thank you, Duncan. And thank you, everybody, for joining in and listening in. And we'll be back next week with another edition of the Fezcast. And we'll say all the best and thanks a lot.
This is the Fezcast.